We're just socializing.
Good. First of all, explain my tardiness this morning. It's strictly because Guido and that huge department of one, he was grinding since we left our last meeting, from the time I walked out of here until all the way through this weekend this morning, trying to get a much closer estimate on where we're at as far as evaluations so it reflects correctly on the compensation that we've been discussing. State, I guess, average is somewhere around 50% highly effective. So we are, what he's projecting is we are falling just above the state average still. It wasn't quite as high as what we thought it would be. Still got a few things out there that we think will raise a little bit. He's still calculating. He's still calculating on your district level instructional contract staff, if you're out there on those, and then there's still your AP folks, because as we know, those are the last things to come in. But based on that, he's guessing about a 52% highly effective percentage there, and that's what we base this draft compensation on. You'll see the numbers have shifted a little bit. Where we left off last time, we were redistributing the LIF funds and a $400 COLA included in this. So keep in mind, if you're okay, I'll just get the draft compensation out there, and we can take a look at that first. Keep in mind that the amounts that you see are, you add the $400 on to the effective or highly effective. And that would be the base increase that they get. And also that COLA does not discriminate amongst the employee class. So that means even our folks that had needs improvement, while there's not many of them, they still will see a cost of living adjustment. And also this, as we mentioned before, this is based on removing the cap for folks at the top also. So the people at the top, their base will increase by the amount that's there. So I'll go ahead and pass this around and take a look at it. When you see the LIF funding on the last bullet, as I mentioned last time, we've got, as we know, we've got a couple schools that went back into DA, and we've also got added some Title I schools. So that'll probably shift around some of that redistribution of LIF funding, but for the most part, we're pretty close on all that. It'll be, most of that is going to affect what's left for those leadership opportunities, just how we've always dealt with LIF in the past. The schools were budgeted for leadership opportunities based on what was left over after those Title I and DA and critical shortage area numbers were established for the year. as you look at also in the some considerations for the lift impacting team evaluation system, you know, are also working on some ideas, of course, because that's part of the team committee that has to go before them. But we're looking at what makes sense for how the number of evaluations we target towards teachers. And so far, the models that we're looking at will be favorable. It'll be very comparable to what's being done now in number of evaluations, but it looks like it's actually going to shape some of the evaluations off of what are currently being done. Not by a whole bunch, but a few. So that's probably exciting for administrators and teachers. So we're trying. We've got our friendly eyes on that, trying to, if there are some adjustments that have to be made, because the lift level being different, then that's what's used to target evaluations right now. So.
Just clarity, evaluation, you mean observation?
Yes, observation.
Okay. No.
Yeah,
just clarity.
Observations for the evaluation.
As opposed to walkthroughs, as opposed to my light,
correct.
which is direct.
Yeah. So
just one, sure.
So we can expect a team meeting at some point?
Correct. Yep. So that's where I told him as soon as I walk out of here today, we're locking ourselves behind doors again to start working on how we're gonna what type of options we have for that for a team committee meeting. So we'll convene at a date that makes sense for everybody once everybody's back in.
Side note, and it may not mean anything, but Guido and I once had a great conversation in regard to lift. The representatives from the school on the team committee were paid out of lift. So last year there were, and again, please, let's not hold anybody to anything. There were less meetings because he wasn't sure where lift was going and whether the principals had gone. So he kind of hesitated on the fact of, you guys are going to have to talk about who's on the committee, and the fact is that the representatives from the school, it's probably not a paid position anymore. That's going to be up to you guys, but you want to get that out.
The team experts.
That's correct. I'm sorry, I said representative.
Representative.
Yes,
Oh, is it? Okay,
yes,
now I need
is.
clarification.
It is. And what?
Never mind that.
That's you know, we had 5 or so positions out lift that were considered leadership opportunities. What I'm going to request today is that as soon as we are done today, if you guys think the compensation is looking palatable, that I'm going to go ahead and pull back together our differentiated pay subcommittee. So because after we do some calculations, we'll know, I'm rolling those positions into that portion of the contract, and we'll know better how that money can be laid in there, and if there's anything that through the subcommittee, which Stuart's on, he's got some folks he selected to be on there, how that is all affected. There, mainly whenever we looked at it, was cleaning up some old language in there, and there were some things like we didn't dig real deep into changing a bunch of numbers in there, but there was some talk and some desire on how at the middle school level, how grade level chairs versus department heads and things like that, because there are 2 different responsibilities there. So obviously, and that benefits you guys people, so that would probably be some conversation that will be had there. So that's what I would like to do. As soon as I know those folks will be back to work really soon, so as soon as I can get them here to discuss some of that, and if there's, you know, of course, if there's folks on the bargaining teams that are interested in joining that subcommittee for those conversations, I would be more than happy to have that door open. One of the other things that we had talked about compensation-wise from last time, not related necessarily to performance pay, but we were looking at how do we deal with the speech language pathology.
Right.
I've got, when I went back and talked to finance on that, they're still working on trying to figure things out with the budget, and the dollars that are being billed for the Medicaid billing, they see some projection, but they haven't recognized those dollars yet. So he's still trying to get a clear definition on that. And like I said before, that's not something I want to close the door on. I want that to be an ongoing conversation. And if we need to address it, if we land on something outside of contract ratification, it may be something we could do through MOU, because I do believe there'll be some funds there. It's looking at how it's done. When I had CFO reach out to Orange County, and what we found was a little bit different than what we had thought. They do contract some of their stuff, but probably not a whole lot, but they do some of it. And I couldn't find on, when I was digging through their surface stuff, what's available, I could not find what they were doing for their SLPs. And then what we saw was they basically are on the regular instructional schedule, and we're subject to the same degree differentials as everybody else. So Orange County's probably not going to be one that we really look at to model things after, because some of the other ones I was looking at, they had some percentages that they were looking at, and so it's probably more of a percentage or stipend type supplement idea. So we're continuing, as they're continuing to help me realize what's a proportionate amount that we could dedicate to that. The speech language area, based on some of the Medicaid billing and the revenue that's coming from that. I will continue to look at, okay, how do we attack that issue to make sure those folks are properly taken care of. I think in looking at just dropping them on to the psychologist schedule, I think that's going to be that's a pretty high cost for that, but we just need to look at it, because I don't want to say that they're exactly the same. I think in some regards they obviously have different responsibilities, but I definitely want to keep approaching the issue with an open mind and see what we can do with whatever available funds.
Chad, how many employees are we talking about that would affect?
We're roughly around, we'll just say 45, maybe, it's somewhere around there. It's in the 40s.
Go ahead, Charlene.
We have, I think, now 19 contracted. Yes, I'd eventually love to see it so that we all had direct hire. And it would be 55, but.
So right now it's closer to 26 who are.
How many have their Cs though?
Right, that was the other question.
You would take 5 off of that.
So it's 71.
So, and I think, and that's what I've seen also, is a few districts had the different levels. It wasn't just one PCs, they did some different things at higher and lower rates. So I think it's an issue we got to keep pushing on and not forget, no matter what, trying to do something there. So I know I feel like you guys feel like this compensation is within the parameters of what we discussed last time.
Yeah, it's within the parameters, but I would be remiss, going back 17, 18, we're asking folks to skip that year as a raise. Last time Lake County did that was 2008 and 9, and we're still seeing the effects of that. Now, we understand the budget is being presented today for 18, 19.
The intended budget.
So, I mean, I would like to take a look at that budget before I commit to anything.
Okay. Good. And that's we've got some cleanup. I feel like we're getting really close.
Yeah.
So we've got some cleanup, we need to do anyway throughout the contract.
Right.
Cover all the work that we've done.
And just one other thing, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
We do know there's that whole compression issue. The newspapers have brought it up, teachers have brought it up, we've brought it up. And then I'd like to see something for the next year where that's going to be reviewed and some sort of solutions developed for that, whether it be a blue ribbon committee, whether it be but some kind of commitment that we're going to be looking at that and what we can do.
Okay, so they, like we discussed last time, you know, in-house with some of my folks, we raked on it pretty hard and came to some tough conclusion that there wasn't a real clear-cut solution. But I think like bringing that into the light is kind of what I took away last time. We put a lot of tools in place to help people understand that the issue exists. Arriving at a solution extremely difficult while continuing to compensate within the letter of the law. So, but I think that if people understand that and see it, then that'll help. And also it'll, you know, the steps like we talked about towards trying to improve that through the COLA and removing the cap. And I think probably what you arrive at is what small incremental steps can we continue to come up with when all minds are at the table,
Right.
to help repair that issue.
I applaud both of your thinking, and it's very Lake County specific, which it should be. But what you just described, what we're being asked for, is much bigger than that. It will help us focus a base that I will fully admit is hard to get to some board meetings sometimes. But it'll help focus them in an educated way who the villains are here. And it isn't the Lake County School Board, it's the Florida legislature. And with that, with the understanding of the statute, et cetera, that will help us all, I think, in the long run. Now, I've been told many times I can't count on that, but you know what? I'm still just naive, idealistic enough that I think that the people I work with the right information will make the right decisions.
That totally makes sense. Also, what we had discussed a little bit, that's moved high on the priority list last time. It was discussed our messaging, and as we joint messaging in particular, and as we hopefully are approaching ratification, as we come to agreements on a lot of things. While we're looking at our budget presentation this afternoon and seeing how that looks against the compensation proposal, and while we clean up the rest of the language, I think perhaps we could, it'd probably be tough that maybe in a subcommittee in the meantime, as we're getting there, to come up with a good line of communication. Maybe 3 people from each side of the table come together as we summarize kind of the wonderful journey we've been on for the last year and a half.
Magical mystery tour.
Yes, when we get there, I told Gil the other day, I'm hanging this one on the wall. So,
Can we meet somewhere to have champagne?
yeah, trust me, I thought about
I
that
think
too.
it should be born again. No.
I think we. So I think we're kind of. Does everybody have we're in a good spot on the compensation discussion at this time?
I do have one question on
Okay.
the sheet here.
Okay.
Looking at the top box, the total number of teachers, 2402.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at the bottom, 2984.
You've got. All right, and this is.
582.
So we're starting 582 new teachers.
Some of I will have to look at retention numbers and see, but some of those do include separations. That's the number
We're
that
not-
includes everybody under the sun, where the top number includes people that are eligible, because your first year teachers, were not eligible for the increase like usual. So that's,
But we didn't start 500 new teachers.
I'm not exactly
I
sure.
don't think, if we did, we had an issue, but.
No.
Well, we've been taking it.
Yeah,
We weren't there.
that's true. It could be 500 throughout the year as people come in and out, not necessarily right off the bat. So we'll have to, as new quarterly retention numbers come in, we can take a look at all of that.
And just for reference, the English teacher, you need to look at the second box. You have flip-flopped the initials. The PE and GF should be flip-flopped, grandfather.
Yeah, you're correct. Sorry about that. Okay.
Just for future.
You are
I should have
correct.
catch that.
But I would like to find out where 500 people.
No, absolutely. Well, we'll define those. It's such a fluid thing with the people that are exiting and coming in at this time of year, that those numbers, I know some of the total numbers of employees have moved around a little bit. So we'll have all that defined.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. We, last time, we had a lot of discussion on 15. And we were able to come to some agreement on that.
Jeff, can I ask a
Sure.
question about the budget?
Sure.
Is it written someplace else about the teachers having the opportunity to choose between last year's?
Thank you.
Yeah, that needs to be on here, but until we're finished, I wanna see what the comparison is gonna be, because if it's a moot point, it's a moot point, but what I'm fearful of is we put that on there, and then all of a sudden, that number comes out to 0, that it made no difference because of the shift in percentage of folks to highly effective. But that's definitely an option that I want to be there. But before as soon as, I have to have complete numbers before we can compare those two files and see, it's hard to, it takes a lot of time, but it's hard to project that number yet.
Well,
So.
but you won't have complete numbers because we're giving teachers the option of 17, 18 for 18, 19, correct?
But I need my complete numbers for 18.
No.
I need my complete numbers for
16,
summative
17,
evaluation.
16,
Yeah,
17,
17,
18.
17, 18. So as soon as that's on his priority list of, as he's still trying to wrap up all the smaller subgroups that might cause a little bit of fluctuation back and forth in those percentages. So as soon as we get there, then he's gonna lay the two next to each other, and we're gonna see the impact. Because I strongly suspect it's gonna be a very minimal impact. But I do, like we said last time, the sentiment that's connected to that is very important also.
I think it will do a lot towards selling it to teachers who got a raise last year.
Yes. So when I come back, when we come back, that'll be another thing that we'll add to it. We'll put a bullet in there.
Thank you.
I want to see, because I'm foreseeing, I don't know why, I don't spend my day in it every day, but how that reports and whatever rules have to go in to direct that in Skyward might be interesting. So I also am waiting to see, exactly what, to make sure that that's how we need to do that. Because if it's wonky on how that has to be programmed in, or how the system has to read that, I gotta make sure basically that DJ's not gonna, throw me to the wolves. because that's gonna include several different departments to get that done. So, I think my folks can figure it out pretty easy by laying files next to each other. How do we feed that into the system so it reads it that way and accurately accounts for it within the Discovery system? I worked on the 15 language a little bit. It's kind of if we can put eyes on this one more time. We won't totally beat it to death. We can go to the second page of it, and you'll see that the or for was part of the discussion from last time. You'll see that for is there because if there is a breakaway from the 45 minutes, it has to be done through the majority vote. For our secondary folks that were not here last time, we're a little bit looking back. We had the discussion on planning time and how that played with some of the remediation intervention and enrichment time. So you guys might want to read through and got any questions, bring those
What
up.
section is this?
It's,
Section 2.
yeah, section 2.
Thank you. That's okay.
It's my understanding that the collaborative planning piece is basically a required meeting like to the PLCs. Is that,
See, we used to have, and
is that,
see, we used to have that collaborative time piece, that when those dollars are gone. And we don't have it anymore.
if you,
And so normally, I mean,
if you look down where we incorporated the MOU in, it addresses collaborative planning. And it talks about the one planning period a week may be scheduled with a required or emergencies sub-covered. And so those provisions are for the collaborative planning. So if you go to the second period, you do because this is already in place. This was a signed MOU that you guys operate under this year.
So my question is on section 3. Where you struck out traditional high and it's just school schedule. And it says that schedule only includes students from a teacher's assigned roster for core curriculum courses.
This is the new
If,
stuff that
so my question is this, okay? I can tell you in my math department right now, my teachers may not have some of those kids on their roster, but they swap out kids to how they want it to work. For an example, if Rebecca Mendoza is working on something for Lamb or for Pert or whatever, she might not have those kids on her roster, but she's agreed that she wants to be able to teach those kids to get them ready. So if it's something within my culture at my school that we've created that allows that, are we saying that this, I'm going outside of the contract? Because I'm gonna have some of those things that will happen. Like she might have a better, when she's looking at the strengths and weaknesses of teachers, she's had great success with PERT, but she may not have that 11th or 12th grader in her class because she's teaching Lamb 1. However, when it's time for intervention, for Mohawk time, those kids need to come to her because she has what it needs to get them to pass that PERT. So you're saying right now, I don't have the flexibility to do that within my school. That is my question.
See, those are all teacher choices because they spend them according to who felt like taught the standard the best. I don't teach it that well. You teach that group.
So
and
that's
I'll
it.
take your group.
That's within my math. I can only tell you within my math department because I know that she works well with everybody else. So she and Fontenot are together. Fontenot may say, "Hey, I need you to grab these kids and teach them this." So they'll swap out their kids. Fontenot might have some of Mendoza kids, but Mendoza might have some of Fontenot's kids. See what I'm saying?
But it's all teacher directed,
Yeah.
not us.
I think a lot of where that stemmed from,
But they don't have a set lesson plan. They don't have somebody come and interview. They're just actually teaching and remediating. Is that going? No, they don't give in grades. No. We're just trying to get them ready and prepped for
Right. That's what I
PERT.
if I understand correctly from where we've kind of gone through this topic, you guys' concerns were you had people that were getting loaded up on, and then you had people that had no responsibilities, which I get that's not what you guys are describing. So how this section 3 was I tried to work on it so there would be some
And
so
granted,
it would cover that.
Chad, I'm not, this is not directed for me.
Mhm.
This is them coming to me, asking me, can we do this? I think that's totally different from me saying, this is what you're going to do, versus them coming to me and say, hey, we have an idea. Can we do this? And when my leadership team, and when they come to me with that, I give them, if they're coming to me and they think it's gonna work, I let them go for it. And if they come back and it doesn't work, we come back to the table, do some tweaking, and see what we need to do.
The deal is it just about the roster of students?
So, I understood, as long as,
Well, would they
So-
be out of compliance if they did? They're the ones doing it. It's not anything to do with us.
Well,
so I'm just asking the question because I know that some teachers will take, Nelson might take a few, this person might take a few because they need to give them that extra push that they need. My question, and it's nothing that I'm saying to Charlene, I want you to take these kids because this is what I'm doing. I'm not asking her to do that. Charlene may come to me and say, hey, do you mind if I go ahead and pull so-and-so and so-and-so to give her some help? I don't back off on that.
What are you guys' thoughts on discussion?
So what kind of language would you foresee putting in?
I mean, could there be possibly something like what is in section 2? There's two different things that's in section 2. One says something about the any deviation from, requires a majority of anonymous vote, or you also have the, teachers may choose to meet, or so.
Could it be as simple as saying, unless agreed upon by the otherwise? I mean, unless a teacher requests otherwise or something of that nature? And then it's at the teacher's discretion there? I mean,
And I don't mind it being teacher discretion because you've got AP calculus teachers that come down to help with algebra kids and stuff during those times because they want to help move those kids and make the
Right.
groups smaller, so
I
it should be their discretion, and I mean, I think that's what it is.
I really think that that still goes on at teacher discretion, because I remember when I was in the classroom, there would be times that we would switch students. Administration didn't even know we were doing it. But it was, I was better at teaching, because I had elementary base, I was better at teaching phonology, and there was a group of students who needed that. And the other teacher was better at just teaching general comprehension, so we would switch. And I mean, we never changed roles or anything like that. It was just, I switched, but it was between the two of us. If someone asked, we would tell them. And we always let parents know we were doing it, but I mean, it never changed our roster. But I trusted her and she trusted me. And so that kind of was just.
And that's all I'm just your strengths and what.
But I don't even think administration even knew.
Okay, I'm going to suggest some language, and then I want to come back and play devil's advocate against my own mind.
Thank you.
Middle school and high school times of intervention and acceleration in the school schedule will only include students from a teacher's assigned roster for core curriculum courses, comma, unless otherwise requested by content or grade level team. So in other words, your math department can say, hey mama, we're doing this. And, or it's different in elementary school because it's not departments, it's grade level teams. Now, what I think I haven't solved yet is a teacher in the grade level team who doesn't want to do it. Hard to believe,
And
but
fine.
they don't have to do it.
Right.
Okay, because as we've said, this is a question of trusting our professionalism. It's a question of peers policing and saying, this is what's best for kids. Okay, that's what I would propose.
I think that's pretty simple, and I feel better about that.
I could live with that.
That's good.
Yeah, you may say again? Okay. So the whole sentence, and we get to core curriculum courses, comma, unless otherwise requested by the content or grade level team. Sure. We get to the sentence that ends with core curriculum courses, then I say comma, unless otherwise requested by the content or grade level team.
Yeah, that sounds really good.
We go back to section 2 and just, I want to make sure I get clarification.
Section 2.
Section 2, and near the bottom of the page, the following types of meetings are exempt and teachers are expected to attend, IEP, parent conferences, MTS, Section 504. Then the collaborative planning or other group meetings and provisions of sub-coverage may be scheduled as follows. Letter A, this is where I need my clarification. one planning period per week may be scheduled with a required meeting or emergency sub-coverage following the guidelines outlined in Article 10, Section 7. That almost sounds like it's taking the power away from that other team that we put together to talk about sub-coverage. Because I thought we said that leadership team was gonna come up with a plan for the equitable rotation and so forth. Yet this is stepping up and going beyond, because what if they say, well, that's not one of those where it's taken away from leadership to pull us for something. We wanna do a flex time and be able to take that time off some other place. I just feel like that's superseding the decision of the school leadership team that you put together to make decisions about an equitable rotation. Unless that's what was meant by the Article 10, Section 7 piece that allows something else to happen, and if not count against one of the four, or one of the one program. But see, I know, once a week I might want to call something, and then if I'm have to use them as a sub, I don't have the option to use my school leadership team's plan, but they put together.
So that's why it says the sub-coverage may be scheduled as follows.
That's what I want to make sure is that covers that if we decide to.
Because 10-7 is the,
Emergency coverage.
yes, and that's why they have.
So that's
the
emergency as opposed
Correct.
to.
It would have been a
If you know of
regular-
an absence and a sub, and you know they're absent and the sub doesn't show up, is that an emergency?
That's what I mean.
So then necessarily be mutually exclusive, I wouldn't think. Article 7, or Section 7 talks about emergency sub coverage.
If you all remember, I don't want to get sucked into the debate between both sides about what constitutes an emergency, because we won't come to an agreement on that.
Yeah, we will.
So, if I remember clearly, Article 10, Section 7 was specifically, and the leadership team was brought in, was specifically so that it wasn't a recurring situation. In other words, it's hard to define what an emergency is. Something's happening that day. Got it. We all rise to the occasion, kids first. Second day, it is the administration's responsibility to have sorted out that issue so that the same people in the same period aren't sucked in again. That's what, and again, I'm speaking only at our high school, that's what the issue was with my first and second period teachers. It is?
That's the board.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's a procedures for each.
Yeah, because in the new language we put, emergency communication procedures will be established for each school. Both parties acknowledge, that was new, both parties acknowledge the responsibility of the building administrator to exercise authority to reassign temporary any teachers' duties to meet emergency situations. Then we struck, in emergency situations, teachers may be required to cover a class or an assignment for another teacher. That's no longer there. For the purpose of this section, an emergency shall mean something unexpected, unavoidable, or unplanned. And then we added, and temporarily will mean no longer than one day. So that way we're not pounding on them day after day
Right.
to,
Yeah, remember resolving it.
emergencies
Or
should be able to be,
Yeah.
and granted, emergency could mean unsupervised kids if that's the last resort that you come to. But is it an emergency if it happens again and you didn't address it the very next day in the same situation?
And so I'm not trying to re-debate that part of the language either, I'm just talking about the way this sentence reads to me, is that, let's say I have a collaborative thing that I want to do that day where I bring teachers in, we do some professional reading of an article. Now I have to make a choice. If I use them as a sub, I can't bring them in and do a professional article with them. Is that what I'm understanding that this
Well, you
means?
bring him in, it becomes a required meeting.
It's right, so that makes it two, because I covered the sub one day because it was emergency. And then now on the day that I want them to come in and do this, or I have them come in and do this on early in the week, Tuesday, later in the week, I can't use them as a sub.
Well, you basically, if you do,
Well, you
then,
can.
then they'll be given an
Then they get
equivalent
the
amount of
equivalent
time.
time,
Right.
which is what I would encourage my leadership team to agree to. But again, my point of the thing was, it feels like it's taking the decision of what that looks like away from the leadership team, because right here we're saying they're gonna be given the extra time. So now the leadership team who makes a decision for something different than this time, that doesn't matter because this supersedes it. That's all I'm just trying to caution.
I
I
think-
don't have an objection to it, I can work with it.
I think the equitable rotation procedures was at the crux of having the leadership team involved.
Mhm.
So all parties are into the play in that.
Like that.
I'm trying, it's a tough one, I'm
Yes.
trying to think
Well,
about it.
and I think we just put the A, B, and C in there, I mean, to basically for some to understand that this is how it could be done. If you had something that you did and every Tuesday they did a collaborative plan, okay, that's one, that's it.
Mhm.
Okay?
Right.
So then if they have a faculty meeting, or if there's an emergency sub, there's their second one. And then their third one becomes their pay. Because that's why the word in there is may. So you may do this, this, or this, or you may do this, this, or this, you may do.
Alright, I want to go back to the memo of understanding, because what I thought before, let me just make sure I have this right. Because, I mean, our district, our plan is, that there's some certain things that administrators have been asked to make sure that we have collaborative planning every week, and that we have 4 days of acceleration or remediation. Those are some of the things that, am I not right? That
Fourth would be two for us.
Oh, okay, thanks. All right, so if that's the case, then it is my understanding that the memo of understanding was we had one collaborative planning time a week. If you used another planning time a week, then you could not have anything on Wednesday afternoon.
Right.
Am I still correct?
Well, Wednesday afternoon was a 6 planning period.
Correct. But if I had something, let's just say, teachers plan together, say on a Monday, and then on Thursday, I need to get together to go over some data or do an article, or we have some kind of professional development, I can't have anything on that
Right.
Wednesday afternoon.
Right.
And that's still,
We're still good on that.
okay, just making sure.
So we're still good on. This old girl over here, and I missed Monday, and I apologize, it's not here. But I want to go back to those 3 days, those 3 evenings. So I just want to understand, I know we have 3 evenings that we don't have to flex any time out. However, if we needed,
Wait, you are flexing it
I thought the 4th one we were flexing it out. So say if we needed the 4th night, I had to flex it out. I had to give them all of that time back. I mean, I just want to make sure, because as I'm going through, I just want to make sure that I have this, it's 3 minimum that they have night duties.
now. No, it's will be entitled to early release time. So it's flex for all 3.
Well, and the conversation that I was around was everybody said that we're flexing them already
We are.
for those activities.
Oh, I do, believe me.
Yeah, so that's
But now we're in,
So, but I'm saying, when I meet with my group and I might say I need that 4th night, I'm gonna flex it all out. And my team knows that I will. Am I still in contract to do so?
There is no.
That's what you.
I thought really that if we did an extra one, all we had to do was flex it out for the.
That's what I thought we had decided on.
I think,
That's not what this says.
that's not what this says, but what I understand is if it wasn't, you couldn't require them after the 3rd. You could get the people, I guess you could solicit for volunteers and you flex them if they're willing to participate.
Isn't that the same thing?
I know, because there are two of them. There are two pieces that I have, and I have that on one, exactly what you said, and this is the new one.
See, when I left out, I knew that we could, if there was another night, we could flex that time out. And because we weren't looking at, oh boy,
I remember us talking about.
I thought we had
voluntary,
something,
saying voluntary and.
something on the 4th.
And
And if we had to. Because originally where everything was, all right, okay. So if that, is that something that, then I would have to do a memo of understanding with Lake Mineola and Union to do the 4th? Believe me, I flex my time out for my folks. They
I
can,
remember
they
Ben
can tell
actually
you
saying
that.
that you can ask people to volunteer and there's gonna be people who don't.
Volunteer.
Well, that's what I'm about to say. It's like, isn't the key word here the volunteer part?
Volunteer, no.
Yeah, see, Mama, the way you're presenting it is, you stand up in front of everybody and say, there are 4 nights, and I'm compensating you for all 4 nights. You can't do that. But you can say, Rice does the schedule. We have X number of holes in the schedule. I need X people to step up to this, and by the way, if you step up to it, it'll be compensated. You see?
On the 6th or what?
Flexed, I'm sorry, flexed. Some people, like, flex time means something, it's got value. To me, it means nothing.
Well, it says equal release time.
Yes, it's
For the 3, it's equal release time.
Okay, so it's not even flex, it's equal release time.
Right.
Which means, again,
If you're spending 2 hours as an open house, somewhere you get 2 hours off early.
on a Wednesday,
On a Wednesday
I get to go
or-
at 1:30 as
or-
opposed, if I built it up, at 1:30 versus, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's not gonna be of any value to me, but there are people that that's
Or a
available to.
work day, or,
Yeah. And I'm sorry to be this guy, just a reminder, part of our negotiation as far as interest-based planning is the research that just about every other district does not require teachers evening duty.
unless it's
Okay,
straight
so I
pay.
understand the needs and I even participate and volunteer, but we want this to be a destination district, and this is one of the things, given some salary compensation issues that we are addressing as best we can, that we want to go back to the membership and say, we've gotten some flexibility here, because we know those of you with 2 jobs, this is very difficult.
And this is all after school hours we're talking about. So, then I have device pickup at 10 o'clock during the day, and some people want to volunteer. That's nothing I need to flex them, and that's not a night or an activity that we have to.
Yeah, yeah.
Say what now?
Yeah.
I said, so our school is different, so we have device time. So students come in and pick up their devices for the year. We start at 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock, from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock, where teachers are still on contract. So if I have teachers, well, if they,
So let it be altered.
yeah. So if they choose to want to.
7 to 3:30.
If they choose to want to volunteer and help with device, that's not considered one of those night activities.
No.
That's during your.
I'm just playing devil advocate here because I can hear it, I can see it. Don't foresee seeing that's happening, but just putting it out on the
But
table.
that would be during one of the pre-planning.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. And again, there's going to be, we talked about this, the meeting you missed, but I think we're all in agreement. There, whether it's a subcommittee or whatever, the communication followed by FYI, the training. Because we're talking about some major culture shifts here. And a lot of us have bought in trust-wise that the new administration is capable of that. This was the previous administration. A lot of these discussions wouldn't have been happening, at least from one man's perspective. Okay?
You mean at the bargaining table?
At the bargaining table. But I'm talking now, after we have a contract, some principals are going to need to be educated. You guys are not them. And that was not to blow smoke up your respective derrieres. That is just the reality. You will have no problem because of the cultures you have set up. But if you've been listening to some of the elementary school levels, there are going to be some issues out there probably that will require additional time. That's just one man's interpretation. So that's why sometimes the language looks and it's like, well, wait a minute, we do this anyway. Yeah, got it.
But not everybody.
But not everybody. And there's 45 of you guys out there.
I think the issue is that not all administration believes in equal release time, flex time, whatever you would like to call
It
it.
doesn't matter, then it's a grievance.
But I'm just saying, I just know
I know
that,
yours doesn't.
I know that mine does not do that. If you ask her about flex time, she's gonna tell you, I don't do flex time. It's probably the only thing that she will not do.
And that's
So
where.
this
goes
is
back to
where,
Vincent.
it would come in, where she would do it. And to her defense, the issue, she's been burned by people claiming they had flex time when she came aboard and whatnot. So it's I understand, but it's still there.
But that comes back to what Ben said, and the fact that they all need to be educated that this is new now. And
Right.
this is what has to be. This is.
If it happens on it is happening on the 18th, I'm starting August the 3rd. We gotta flex people out, we have to flex people out. If they've given time and you all have done time, forget this past stuff.
Bingo.
You've gotta flex these
I
folks.
I don't think the administration would have any issue doing that now, but I'm just saying that I just know that there's been a issue in the past.
And I can understand that because I can have some folks that said, you know what, I stayed here for 5 hours. I never asked them, didn't need them to do anything, all right?
Voluntary.
That flex time doesn't work for me.
No.
All right,
No,
if
no,
I
no.
don't request it, if I don't ask it, and I don't come to you and tell you, then that's not flex time.
The
When I
amount of-
come to you, that's
The
flex
amount
time.
of time we spend grading papers, whatever, et cetera, the only place that is needed is when you're trying to convince Bill Mathias that teachers do work a number of hours versus having the whole summer off. And then when you get him to understand that, to think hours instead of days, and you get the, oh, that's the only place you need to have that conversation.
But see, the key phrase is required by the principal to attend the function.
Gotcha.
That's the key
That's the
phrase.
key.
Yeah.
I mean, I could spend all night there, but that doesn't mean I'm required to.
Exactly.
And this is gonna sound like blowing smoke, but I'll hopefully wrap it up. We were joking with Terry about what we get at Lake Minneola High School as far as appreciation. And that's not just limited to Teacher Appreciation Day.
bragging like good times.
Yeah. And that sets up a culture that I'm never volunteering, I'm there. You know, whatever it is. Hopefully, rather than being isolated enclaves of the right culture, you guys in the new administration will be more of the role models that'll get rolled down because some of these more inexperienced, speaking for myself, more inexperienced principals will say, oh, that's how you do it. Because he's saying, that's how you do it. That's our hope.
And we could see that from this new administration as far as hurricane
Yeah.
Oh,
and all those days. You know, that was time that was given. They didn't have to do it.
Mama, you and I can look at this, some of the language we put here, and we look at the term leadership team. And we're comfortable because we're 7 years into that. But other people on the table can't be as comfortable as you and I are because whether it's a leadership team or a SAC, their principals have had the attitude that it's my way or the highway. This is going to take time. It may fail. I hope not. But, you know, that's what we are negotiating, is like, it will give us a better say, it will help with morale. You have experienced it already. And again, I apologize, Jack. I always wind up isolating the elementary schools. You know I don't mean it that
Oh, I
way,
know.
okay?
Yeah,
I just, that's how this marketer has processed the data.
We got it.
Okay, so Article 15,
So we're good because we added that language.
Yes, oh my gosh, am I gonna get rid of the smiley?
I think.
Oh my gosh.
I think this is a big smile.
15 is
Do we have any more smileys?
Oh, we have lots of smiley.
Did you buy the stamps?
Good.
Yes.
Good, bring it. Sure.
And Chad, you were gonna work on something for us, new administrators and administrators, so just to kind of overview.
Oh, yeah. Well, I imagine I'll have a pretty
FYI.
strong slate in our first business meeting, and then I'll have to figure out how to relay down the APs, because that's gonna be a key.
I'll do my own, because I want mine, for us to be on the same bandwagon about what's taking place.
And the goal is to have some tools you guys can take back to your APs and that I can deliver to them directly, and then I'll talk through some other channels and
And if you need any help from any of us.
We have the same responsibility on our end.
And, you know, it might be they get to come spend a couple hours with me one evening, and,
Before you pass out, a couple little caveats on that too, you know, not to defend any of the other administrators who are not in the room, but there were not as clear language in the contract before this year about equitable time being given.
Agreed?
So,
Agreed.
again, I'm not justifying
No.
their decisions, but I think now they will feel much more comfortable
And-
because the contract.
And I think that was one of the intents that we needed to clean up, is that muddy language, tighten it up.
And
And I
think we've
appreciate that.
done
Very
great
much
work with
so.
that this year. The other thing I am still concerned about is those same administrators will say that until this contract's ratified, none of this new stuff goes into play, and understand that we have a little bit of time to get things ratified, and so we might start training them about new language that hasn't even been ratified yet. So it's one of those, give some of these folks who have been a little bit harder to, believing that they thought they understood what the contract meant, give them a little bit of time while we try to train and while you convince all the teachers that this is the right thing to do.
So that becomes a wonderful, for the next month, training, transition.
Absolutely.
Because I also wanted to say too, is that, because, I mean, through all of that, it was a lot of that, you know, administrators didn't want to get in trouble either.
Well, that was my next point. That was where I was going to build on
It
that.
wasn't a thing
This
of, oh my
is-
gosh, you know,
Some
do
of
I
us
really
stepped out
have,
and felt okay.
you know, do I
And
really
said,
have the authority to do that? And some just said,
And were
Okay,
there
we're doing it.
retributions and mixed signals from them?
Right, I think that's the big
we
issue, at
didn't want
least
to get
in
in
mine.
trouble.
I think it was,
I don't like that.
the past administration would, because I would hear them on the phone, and there would be a different response. And there would be some administrators that would just do what they felt that needed to get done and ask permission later, kind of thing. And there are some that, well, that's not what it says. And so I really don't believe, I believe the contract was at fault, but I also believe that it was past administration's mixed signals that were primarily to blame for some of the administrators who were not flexible.
Next.
Let's not dwell, let's move on to.
Yes. All right.
I've got the virtual school that I've had that worked on for a little while, so we'll pass that around. Worked with our folks in charge of virtual, and this is basically taking an MOU and pulling it into its own article. There's The only thing that really wasn't, there's a couple of titles that need to be changed, as far as, for an appeal thing. But also it wasn't covered how, folks were gonna be paid during the summer for, credit recovery purposes, so I added that in. It's how that's a new thing, and it's how folks are being compensated, but I wanted to make sure it was included in the language.
I got it.
Looking at what
Yeah, she's just stepped out.
Oh,
we felt like,
and she'll be back.
our virtual school felt like they're in line with going rates for these areas. And so I'll let you just look over it. Some of you, this might be new to you if you hadn't looked at a whole lot of virtual stuff in the past.
Right here, hit start on it. Use your English one.
What is an announcement?
But you know, it used to be done.
Is this in line with K-12
What
or
do you mean?
Florida virtual rates?
I'll have to, I'm not sure what they charge, or how they compensate. I think K-12 is a private company, or K-12 is a private company, I'm not sure.
No, but
what
the
they
Florida
compensate.
virtual would be the biggest competitor.
No, I just had it.
I'm not sure what they, what Florida Virtual pays that.
And if you look in section 2,
Yeah,
the second paragraph where it's talking about the $50, brought to my attention. Sentence number 2 shouldn't start with 50%. You know, English, either put the in front of it or rearrange the sentence after reviewing all course content.
oh, you're correct, yeah.
You just put, you know, you can put the in front of it or whatever, but make it.
Or when.
When would be better?
What we're talking about completing.
Yeah, I'm not sure it makes sense for the rest of us.
Okay.
I mean, you either put the 50% of the course completions will be determined, or after reviewing, flip-flop the sentence, after reviewing all course content, comma, 50%, of course, completion will be determined by, you could do that, so it'd be easier to just put 50% for,
Yeah.
50%.
All right, we'll fix that, right, so it makes sense. And some of this, I just copy and paste out of the old MOU.
Yeah,
It
and
wasn't
I
something
know
that needed to be changed, so we'll.
Yeah.
Did we discuss what an announcement page is?
Where, what paragraph is that?
It's all the way in the second
Second
page,
page.
third from the bottom.
Okay.
Expected maintain and announce.
I don't know how to define that. I can ask.
It's probably.
I imagine it's like probably like an online syllable.
I was gonna say, it's probably gonna wind up being either a dashboard or something modern. I have a text out to a Florida virtual school person, I'll ask the terminology as well.
Here, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, could be, and go a couple above that with the office hours, fix the quotation on the left.
Okay.
And at the very bottom, the board and LCEA meeting is needed, keep going. Do you want district capitalized but then not virtual and program, or is that?
No, that's probably how some of this is coming out of a PDF to Word whenever I was rolling it over, so.
I'm assuming you're on.
So it's all caps, right? Just those.
Okay, and then board and LCEA, are we talking all 1,700 of our members or officers or?
What did you guys, I wasn't here when this was created. Do you recall what those discussions were around it? I mean, to me, it's,
Representatives.
From,
Yeah.
representatives from the board and LCEA.
Yeah,
okay.
and the board, yeah, representatives of the board and LCEA.
Would that work?
Because we're not gonna meet with the total board, we're not gonna meet with all of our members.
No.
But I see what you pulled that directly from the old one from 2011, it's like,
It'd be a big meeting.
it'd be fun.
Few typos, figure out what the announcement page is.
Like one in the ballpark.
All right, what you got?
Money
All
line.
right, we bring back finalized, ready to rock next time around.
We're on a roll here, guys.
Um, yeah, come. There was, on travel and reimbursement, trying to wrap another one, there was a slight change on travel and reimbursement. That would be Article 18.
Yeah. Just whatever announcement page is, we're still trying to clear that.
Okay. All right, well, I'll talk to them and see what's on that. I'm sure, to me, it sounds like an online source or something of that nature, or some type of platform.
It could be an introduction page,
Yeah.
it could be, I don't know. Okay, let's talk reimbursement of travel.
There was, beginning last year, she's going to get some research on something. There was some question as to whether, on the one-day trips, expenses, by authorized employees on school business, which requires only 1 day of absence, shall be reimbursed for travel and meals. Yeah, I'm not sure, something out of finance, questioning the meals.
Yeah, for a one-day trip, yeah, that would make sense.
So, yeah, so they were saying that that's not done, so it was to strike the and meals. Read that.
Okay.
But I think that's has, you know, it's just how it is. They need to address it. I was going to address that with, I was going to bring up the,
Teacher funds required meetings.
the college board patron. Now it's to the district. But when we had a room reserved, we could not stay. We can't tell them to say that. But if it's a high, it comes to the district.
So if I'm going to a meeting in Gainesville,
Right.
I could get paid from mileage from my home
Lady,
because that's less
I heard about that one.
than the mileage from
Yes.
the office.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure it is statute, for striking the meals on one day. That's why I just wanted to double check and make sure. So I know we have it, so we want to finish looking through this one and,
And it also states that,
Yeah,
it also states that, I guess,
there will be no per diem or meal allowance for out-of-county travel that does not include an overnight stay. So if you're traveling back and forth and you're doing a whole day at Avid Summer Institute,
and that's
you
where I
will
was
not
coming.
receive per diem.
So these teachers aren't on contract, but they are volunteering to go for their school for Avid.
Is it
And
required?
It's required if they want to be an added
If they want to be
teacher.
an
Okay,
avid
then
teacher.
there's a difference, it's now being required then.
but there's still no per diem. For that lunch.
Unless it's an overnight stay.
And that lunch is like,
$18 for a
Yeah, they can't even record it.
Can you, and when you buy there, the per diem doesn't even cover it.
Right, but
I
at
brought
least
my
it's
lunch
something,
every
but
day, and
right
that
now
tells
you're
you.
not giving them anything.
I wouldn't pay that.
And they could have done the same thing, I mean, they could have brought their lunch.
A lot of people.
They did.
After the first day, probably they did.
Yeah, they found out how much it
Yeah, I
cost.
would.
But we didn't do that.
Well, I think they do that, 'cause,
Yeah.
I mean,
Now,
That's
one day
before
trips,
July wants
does
to
it
really
mean just one day trips, or does it mean,
Yeah, one day trip.
so like the Avid was a one day trip, it was a 3-day trip.
No, but it didn't require overnight.
It was 3 one-day trips.
Three one-day.
There you go.
They drove back and forth, so therefore it was a day trip.
Hour and 10 minutes every day.
An hour and 35.
All right.
From Wildwood.
You beat me. I was going to UCF.
But here, you get, I was staying with my mom, so I paid for everything.
Fire used to be
Why
paid
don't y'all just get a hotel?
hourly.
Why don't y'all just get a hotel?
Because of the trouble that was in the
Lauren
news
Ritchie,
a couple
about
weeks ago, or a couple years ago.
I think we're working on, in the board policy updates, some of the contiguous county stuff, if it's paid for by, like, say, college board.
Yeah, college board.
Like,
And they pay
or
for
someone-
they pay
if
and they
it's
work
paid
and
for
they-
by,
It's a
outside
different
dollars.
But you know, they waited at the college board till like 5 o'clock, and then you had to be back the next morning at 7:30.
Says if teachers
You know,
drive
it was just-
required meeting.
It's tough.
Why wouldn't they get
Ready for the
compensated?
next day. Everybody.
Well, it was so bad, even when I was principal of the year, and the state was paying for it. They didn't want me in the district to spend the night there.
Oh, yeah.
The state's paying for it.
Right. I had the same thing for,
And I told them, if I pay my own money, what do you have to do with
program
that?
specialist meeting. DOE was paying for it, and they would approve it.
You should be. No, you would be paid for your mileage.
I was going to pay a teacher for a time.
From
You
your
got go
work
and
site
you just
to
go 3-4 days a week,
Minneapolis.
so I'll make that drive.
You should be paid for your mileage.
Not going all day.
So you just submit that?
Yeah.
Are there any other
From your
questions
work
on
site assignment.
travel and reimbursement?
Right. But
Well, Liz had a question, but go
Well-
ahead.
my question is, based on this, I should be getting paid quite a bit if I'm required to go to, like, say, pre-planning. You're required to go to the south end of the county for my countywide in-service.
I think they consider that as your.
That's not how
That's
the
your work
district
site
travels.
for that
No,
day.
no, no, but
But
it's,
it's not my work site.
But it says if you have to go to 2 places in one day. Sorry, if I can speak, if I read it right, it says if you have to go to a
Yeah.
different work site in one day,
yeah.
it'll pay you the difference between what it'd be from your house to the work site.
Right. So if I have to go, I have to show up at work.
2 schools in one day. so.
Right, but then, say the thing
You go
doesn't
to your
start,
normal work
or my
site.
normal work site,
And then it's
and then
mileage.
I go to the thing, because it might start at 8,
But why would you go to your school?
Right, normally we just go to
because,
the
just
workshop.
because
because
work
I
site.
I would show up to my normal time.
You go straight to your workshop. No, I'm not trying to take, I'm not your boss. So-
I have never got paid for it, but I'm just saying.
I just, you know, if you have a workshop,
Well,
it starts at 8 o'clock, I'm not, and you go straight to your workshop.
Stay home, don't come
You-
back.
It's kind of a psychologist language that we came up with years ago, where they begin, where they go. Instead of their work site might be, they go there and then they go here and they want, no, you show up where you are and that's where you begin.
That's IRS.
Yes.
But the language under section 2.
Or like, what if,
Where are you all on? 'Cause
page 59, or like, what happens if I have a
No,
required
it's still section 1.
meeting at the county
Yeah.
office
Section 1C,
at noon time?
2.
This one.
C2.
And you go to your meeting at noontime.
So if I go to my school,
You don't go back to your school.
yeah, I would go back to my school too. But my issue is, I've never gotten compensated for it, but according to this, I would. Or should.
I'm gonna tell you. I'm just saying. What page 59? I need to get this
59.
program.
It's on the
C2.
handout.
What handout?
Oh, no, my bad.
Yeah,
There is my,
yeah,
what page is it?
I think
59.
part of that becomes the difference between a required meeting and
Right.
a meeting that is offered.
Well, required if I'm doing a coaches meeting or I'm doing a meeting that, a lot of times they're half day or whatever. I mean, I'm just saying, based on the way it's written. it
I
seems-
understand.
I-
I understand. I have monthly meetings with therapists. I don't ever say they are required.
So I would say,
Talk about this is what we're going to go over. I have usually 90% attendance at those meetings, but they're driving here. I'm driving here. I'm not driving all the time.
Because it's, as she said,
But
it's
if
not,
it's required,
Ah,
then it's
it's-
reimbursable. Yeah.
Correct.
but that's why a lot
I
of,
don't have that money.
whether it's a coach, whether
Mhm.
it's, you know, whatever it is, I mean, everybody has media specialists, they all have meetings. But sometimes they have something else at their school or they whatever, and they don't go to those meetings. I mean, it's not like it's that they take attendance and say, oh, you know, so-and-so is not here and now you're not gonna get whatever.
you know, like guidance counselors have their meetings. So they don't come to school. Now, I may have a few that come to school only because they have childcare issues, but it's not required. So they come, but we don't compensate. I mean, I don't compensate them.
Student services does.
If they
Or did.
I don't know. So if it was required, it wasn't required by the school, you know.
They are not consistent policies.
So IRS guidelines are from your assigned workstation, if that's your, wherever your first stop is. And it's mileage from there on out. If I remember correctly.
I would get paid more because.
You would, but
So there's no issue with the current language. Correct?
It's just implementation.
It's how it's being
So,
implemented. It's not the grievance, okay.
But it also says you can be reimbursed for limousine service when properly documented.
Cool.
I don't think they need limousines.
Well, you know, I'll be honest with you, this
An
is,
airport
the
limousine.
limousine
maybe.
is cheaper than a cab.
Yeah, an airport limousine,
Uber,
Well,
late limousine to the airport's only $50 or something.
and Uber did one the other night for 30.
but that
At
really
2
doesn't,
a.m.
that doesn't.
What are
really
you doing
affect
out at
you.
2 a.m. young
Oh,
lady?
it was my sister's paper, let me just say. It was not me.
a little while,
Sure looked like you.
Hey,
Guys,
guys,
listen, I
you don't
haven't
mind,
been
can we take a break as we're approaching 10 o'clock?
Please,
All
yeah.
right, thank
Are we
you.
off task?
And, well,
Please give me a break.
I'm sorry.
let's say 10:15, okay?
Yeah.
15-minute break.
Perfect.
Where's the bathroom?
Ready?
Okay, when we left off, we were looking at travel reimbursement. I think it was more, any questions were mainly around implementation rather than current language. We in agreement that we were okay with the current language.
Except you took out the meals, that one.
Yeah, except for the and meal stricken due to statute. Since how we're getting really close on compensation, I think there's a lot of language that's wrapped into the compensation article that we have not gone through yet. I think that'd be wise so we don't get hung up on everything once we get close. Just on the I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was waiting for you to finish.
Go ahead.
If we could just go back to virtual school.
Okay.
Information. I spoke to a virtual school teacher. All the information here is accurate as far as her pay, etc. Question on, and I guess this is new language because it's underlined, teachers will be paid $75 for each student who successfully completes one segment to have credit for credit recovery. Because it's credit recovery, it's a little different than the top paragraphs. Should that be section 3, which is specifically credit recovery, or what we call E-2020? Because if you look up top, you see you can get a half credit. You got some pay there and some requirements. And then down here it says teachers will be paid $75 for each student who completes one half credit. It seems redundant. It confused my person until she realized, oh, wait a minute, that's a separate thing.
So what you're saying, make it its own section in the appropriate spot so it's not confusing, so it's clear that it's.
That's what I would recommend.
During the summer, okay. All right.
And then finally, a announcement page is the equivalent of a teacher web page that we all put on our sites. They go, the student actually signs into Florida Virtual, they hit the course button, and there's a picture of the teacher with her hours, et cetera, et cetera. It doesn't require any coding or anything, so it's just like we normally do.
Okay.
They just call it an announcement.
Yeah. That's the introduction.
Okay, thank you, Vin, for checking that out.
I'll thank the subcommittee.
Thank you, Subcommittee.
So, back to our, so we get back to, Article, was it 16 here? Professional compensation. A lot of this is there's some historical things and some long-standing things. If we want to just read through these, or read through it, and then if we have any questions, we can visit it.
You're talking about the statements at the top?
This is Article 16. You, page 46, begins on line 1403. You've got about 17 sections that cover, that outline professional compensation. Yeah, they've got. And you just notate and put your questions out, and then we can go through and.
Page 46 of the original.
understood correctly. Michelle, looking at this, what are some of the issues that have come up in the last couple of years as far as credit and salary schedule, et cetera?
I haven't read through the whole thing yet,
Okay,
but one of the things that comes to mind is vocational teachers
yes.
and difficulty in obtaining previous experience and how, what's relevant, what's not. That's the first thing that comes to mind. I don't, does it even speak to vocational teachers?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I saw that as being an issue too.
It's verified that it's in, but
But
Getting there, that's the problem, especially for health sciences.
well, and not
Individuals
just
who've been
that,
nurses and.
there's health science, there's digital design, there's TV, where people work as self-employed contractors. So it's not like they're employed by a company. They may have lots of assignments. So to get a verification from a company for an umbrella, you may have done contract work and have 6 different people during that year. So that becomes an issue, I think.
Also, we historically did this, but I don't see where it's specifically talking about credit for service for OT, PT, SLPs, or nurses.
Well, see, that's another issue too, yeah.
That was my note from Jim.
Well, OTs and PTs are not professional material in the salary schedule, so, yes. So it would, but that is relevant for SLPs and,
Well, but doesn't it determine where the OT, PT comes in on that stuff?
yeah, but that's not part of this contract, right? I agree for the SLPs and the nurses who are coming in to teach.
Now, I mean, you guys have been very good about giving
If,
It's never happened. Yeah.
well, she has. She's the one that did the training. What if they,
What else?
114.
Yeah, you are.
So they March.
Anytime.
It's starting on the third. Well, that's the reason why. Why is that the best?
Yeah.
I thought we both checked it.
For some reason, I'm one
So they
month
don't get a
off.
check, even though they start on the third, they won't get nothing till August
You get paid on
15th.
August 15th, I'm just asking, because that's a question for teachers.
I do not remember, but I'll check. I can check right now.
Yes,
The
15th is the
15th of
last
August
day.
is a full one?
No, I thought they got a
Oh.
partial
That's
check.
what I'm trying to figure out, because see, they'll be in session.
Now,
and they
August
don't know
15th
what-
is
should be
the
a
last of this school year.
Oh,
Yeah.
attention.
Oh, okay, so August 15th is the last school
Of
year.
this school year.
And then the new
It's on
school year
124.
Will be on
starts on
August
August
31st.
30th.
Right.
Okay.
So the new
A new
teachers,
teacher would not
okay,
New teacher will not receive anything
until
the
August
end of August.
31st.
okay. Because they're gonna be looking.
At least that's what.
So what about-
It's always been like that, yeah.
So my question is, would they, I guess we would need to find out from the district, because they've done, this new beginning, they get paid. They probably need to
They'll
process
probably
that
have that
check.
little partial if they get it done.
They probably need to get that little partial on 15.
They'll be much safer.
That's a payroll situation. All right, I got you. I got you.
But I would doubt it, because it's just that that would be the same thing as anything else, is one person plugging in all that data, all that information. And so they're probably not gonna have it in there before they need it, before payroll needs it to cut a August 15th
I
check.
got you, got you.
Now,
So
they may
want-
get it with the other check on the 30th.
Yeah, there's a little bit more
Possibly.
money they have in there, the more taxes they pay.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
That
we have
happens
to
all
put
the
it,
time.
we haven't, but they told.
That's good to know, because I didn't know that. So teachers do get a check on August 15th, but it was their last paycheck for the 17, for the 17, 18.
Which section is that? Oh, there it is.
So will clerks and stuff like that, do they choose, can they choose 24?
No.
Are we talking about like school secretary and
They have the option to choose.
2014?
Hmm?
They're in the certain
Even
They're
food
hourly. How would they have a?
24 pay. They have the option to choose. It's bargained with LCEA.
cafeteria people too?
If they work in that range.
If they pay about 6 or more.
There's certain criteria that
Okay.
they have to meet. Not
Okay.
everyone is eligible.
Okay, got you.
Okay.
I have in my notes that section 1, we did something on 1010.
I know that, it needs to be, redone. I don't have,
Let's take it out, yeah.
yeah, some of this needs to, in section 1, we've kind of, when we were going through some of the salary issues, it came about that, talking about job activity reports and things like that. Now we have a salary summary form, and it provides that information to people through Skyward. So that's, a lot of that's not necessary now. And then, but in that first paragraph, if we're talking about pointing to the salary schedules that are in the appendix as being placement schedules, it'd probably be a good idea to introduce those as placement schedules rather than just calling them salary schedules. And then teachers shall be provided with written information as to the manner of their salary calculation. And I think if it's okay with you guys, I'll just word that to where it makes sense. Teachers are provide access to their salary summary form through Skyward. That last sentence, Michelle might need a little help with. Prior to this time, newly hired teachers shall receive their first paycheck. Receive with their first paycheck a current salary schedule. If they should have access, if they're receiving a paycheck, then they should have access to that salary screen,
We
correct?
actually, I want to double check on the specialist, but we go over that at new employee orientation.
Okay.
But they won't receive a paycheck now.
No, and they don't receive them
Yeah.
with their, and they don't receive anything with their paycheck because it's all direct deposit.
Right.
But we discuss the current salary schedule and the general explanation with that is used to calculate the salary during your employee orientation. When they meet one-on-one with their HR specialists, that information is passed on to the new teachers.
So, newly hired teachers
Placement
shall
schedule,
be
sorry.
given
We can come up
information
with-
on their salary schedule and general
We
explanation
don't
of.
receive the paycheck, so, sometimes they're expected
I'm
to
just
have
saying,
a
shall receive information, so receive.
check. Yes.
Receive information.
When this was written, you received a paper copy. Now, at this point, you don't.
They're actually, now that I'm thinking about it,
It's something,
the first check may be a check.
because
If
they
they do a
haven't done
dummy
the,
run with the direct deposit and so your first
Yeah,
check
your
is
first check is an
check.
actual check.
for new teachers.
For new to- for
For-
any
Or anybody, if you
employees.
switch your bank accounts or anything, right?
Right. So we have to enforce something.
So you're okay if we gear section 1 to updated times? So it's not in a more archaic mode? And because the appendixes are connected to this, I'll look at rewording those also on the appendix documents so that they're understood as placement. All right, section 2.
I'm wondering in section 2 or 3, since we do have a variety, times of change, self-employed contractors, even teachers are self-employed contractors in some cases. Do we need some sort of an appeal process if folks feel they should be given credit on something and weren't?
Meaning
Are you
from-
talking about what's in section 4 or section 2?
Maybe it could go in section 4, but maybe somewhere in there.
Meaning from today forward, though, not being able to go back because of the previous contract language, the city.
Right. Times are changing. People don't have one employer for 20 years anymore, or 10 years anymore.
Well, and some of these
They're changing.
these dates in here too, can we
Oh,
just
yeah.
take the dates out, because then they're like, well, we haven't had any changes since 1985. That confuses them too, so if we could just take out the dates, I don't think we really need those in there anymore.
In some instances, we do.
Yeah.
In some instances, we
People are
do.
still here, I guess.
Yeah, because it's like
You have
they're,
to-
85, 86, that's me, that was
Put
there.
it there.
they're getting credit for things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just say get confused. Exactly what.
I won't tell you where I was at.
They need to read it.
And Freddie Garner was the superintendent at that time.
So, section 2A.
Right, okay, well, just wanted to
You
know.
just really want to just read this
Shall not
in.
be counted as years of service to a professional service contract.
What'd you say?
That was 8.
We still have to.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Section 2A.
Yes.
Where it says,
I'm sorry.
military experience shall not be counted as years of service for a professional service contracts. Do we leave that in because we still have PSCs, or do we take it out because we no longer?
Should you
I
put
would
something
take
in
it
here
out.
that says that this only applies to PSC?
But see, the people who are PSC, that's already applied.
Right.
So, I mean, you
So
could
you
take
can-
it out altogether,
Yeah, it says for
Yeah.
professional.
because that's already done.
Done.
There is no new PSCs.
Well, we're not taking out the whole, we're not taking out all of A, right?
No, no.
We're gonna, right, minimums on the placement schedule
There you go.
shall be given.
Yeah, that doesn't sound right.
For each year of active military service, shall be 4 years, we do that. And then we need the minimum 6 months active military service shall be required to qualify for a year service, so it's that middle part.
So give me a rough draft of that, Michelle.
It's actually taking out the however,
Yeah.
period through contract.
So just say credit on the placement schedule should be given. That was wrong, right, given a teacher. Shall be given to a teacher for each year of active military service up to 4 years, period. And then take however, all the way up until that. And just say a minimum of 6 months active military shall be required to qualify for a year service.
Start C and forward. Because those people have already been away here and.
Are you looking at B? Yeah, I had a question about that too.
Well, we still have people that may have started prior to that, they're still working on this.
And they're even been under the inhabit and still theoretically a year behind. But yeah, that may need to be looked at.
if they were hired prior to 85, they would be over the max, they'd be over 25 plus. So it's kind of irrelevant,
Okay,
only because they'd be over the years.
okay. Thank you.
After that's where you start.
So we don't need
Before 85,
that.
they're over 30. 10, 15.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, unless they left and come back, which again is their,
This goes
that's,
away, they couldn't
But if
contest.
they-
If they came back, they would get their credit. over
they would get their
25.
credit anyway, so.
Yeah.
This goes away.
So that's really a whole
Go back
new
and
issue.
Test how they were originally placed.
That's just a. Yeah, but right now then this doesn't,
So do we even need to be in there?
It's kind of irrelevant. With the exception of somebody who tried to argue it, but again, they'd be over 25.
it'd be over
and they'd
20,
at the
yeah,
max
so it
that they
doesn't need to be in
anyway.
here.
So, to me, it's all irrelevant.
So tentatively removed. B.
Can we remove B?
Well, and if they ever had a question about it, it's not like previous contract is going away. True. So then C can start off all new teachers? This would be effective at certain date. Change it to payment schedule.
The only part in that paragraph that kind of bothers me is, which is satisfactory performance evaluation was grade C. We don't know how stringent other evaluations might have been before they got here. I don't know,
Is it 2008? They're moving. So that would be an accurate statement.
That can affect
Consequences,
some
right.
kind of-
But you could just take out the effective July 2nd part,
Not
the date, and start with all new teachers.
No.
2008, they would go, they would go through it.
right.
Labor leave falls after July.
They made that adjustment.
So bring that up.
You could, or
Just
just not.
after July 1st.
I have a question for for letter C. If, in fact, 2000, was it 2008, 2009, is that the right year? There wasn't, we never, we didn't get the step. So that would mean that this would be totally inaccurate for everyone who was employed at that time.
Oh, well, let's just get it now then.
Yeah, technically,
For each year of teaching service.
doesn't that go against what we did last year?
Right, so I'm just saying.
So that is,
So that would be 2.
It's at the time of your hire.
It does say all new teachers. It doesn't say all teachers, it says all new teachers, and it's talking about where you're being placed on the salary schedule.
That's true.
So it doesn't really mean that, it says all new teachers.
So we need to reword that section somehow. Figure like,
What section?
I think C needs to be reworded somehow.
So new teacher can come here, we don't get the raise. They leave the state that year, they come back, the next year, they got their raise in another place they went for experience or whatever. And they're at a higher
they're a
step
higher
than the
step.
people that stay here. So they come in this way.
Well, that's what you guys have got an MOU that limits that, if you're interested in it. That's an unsigned MOU, a draft.
That's
that
true, but-
limit years of experience that you can bring in. So that's something that's out there for discussion.
True. But we have teachers here now who need some sort of correction, but
So basically, your loyalty to the county is penalized.
Is that out of state or out, and they got the bonus?
You
And I
know,
can send you a
the
name
way-
of teachers
yeah,
that
it's,
we've gotten.
we basically have for a break-in service. If you have a break-in service, say if somebody's coming in, I'll have to go back and look at it, but basically keep someone, they're basically about 3 years of experience coming into the district new, is what is put out there for discussion. So, one of those things that, I mean, does it put money back into somebody's pocket? No, but it does stop the burn.
Well, we just had a period of time where they were saying they were checking it when new people were coming in, but they weren't. And those people were given the raise when they came back. They might have skipped to it, they might have skipped to a different state. They came back in and they received the raise where our people didn't. Then when we got the step, they were not supposed to get the increase, but they did.
When was this? Just prior to the change to performance pay?
that was the year before.
Yeah, so.
I just know there was a lot of talking about it, you know.
So I don't, if you're suggesting reworking it, what is the suggestion there?
Is it even needed? Is it even needed?
It states where we're going to place individuals on the placement schedule. How we determine where they're going to fall on the placement schedule.
You Do you guys have a desire to alter how people were placed on the schedule? Coming in?
So we're replacing salary schedule with placement schedule?
I would just say take off the effective July 2nd, 2009. At the
Just
very
start all
beginning,
new
you start
teachers?
all new teachers whose first day of employment.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you can leave the other one in there because it goes back to the law, I mean, back at that time. But the first one isn't. And then it's saying that they're gonna be given on the placement schedule for each year full-time service. Then it goes into the private. I would say the same thing, take off beginning with the 1985-86 school year. I think that can be taken off. And just say, for salary purposes only, a minimum of is required for quality of. Because just like Rob said, I mean, we really don't have, I mean, if they do, they're at the top of the scale. And this is just saying that if somebody has 743 hours, they have a year of teaching experience.
Which is interesting, because that's 100 days, yet the state says probationary period is 180 days. Discrepancies.
So if a teacher, a new teacher comes in and they can prove that they had experience, but they can't prove, they don't have anything that shows that it's quote satisfactory, do we make an assumption that it's satisfactory unless you find out otherwise?
I would have to ask how that's done, but I believe we get that information from other districts. For the most part, we receive that information from other districts.
But I do know districts who didn't give that, or didn't give evaluations since 2011.
Well, no, they had something.
Yeah,
It may not be,
Out of state.
What we're used to, but it has.
it's not what we're used to, but they had to have something. I mean, I'm sure that a principal went in and did, I mean, something. Well, nothing else, then they got the principal to say that they were satisfactory, I mean, and no
You got your
records or whatever.
references.
I mean, you have, I mean, I'm sure if somebody wants credit for that year, they're gonna go to that the ex-principal, and they're gonna say, hey, I want credit for this, and they're gonna somehow get something. Especially if they wanna be up higher on the placement schedule.
But then the question is, what would be acceptable?
I would think a notarized form from a principal or from anybody would be,
Most districts have forms that they provide information on, and we just we check them to make sure that their forms match our forms, and if we do, then we can accept their forms.
and then what do you,
Then say-
States
Yeah, but I
in
had
here-
Jim, I
It
had
does
Jim.
state
But then if
Walker
the-
on, and on this in the year, and they couldn't get it. They couldn't get it because it burned down.
so if the form isn't the same, then do you then look into it, or do you ask the teacher then to go back and
I've
give you
rec-
more information?
I
I'm
have
assuming?
received a form from Orange County asking me to describe, excuse me, the services of a contract therapist who then was moving to work there. They were going to give her credit for public school, but she didn't have an evaluation from a principal because she was contract. So I just had to,
And that's, I'm
document it
assuming they
on
would do
their
the
form.
same type of, yeah. That's, okay, so does that finish out that?
Are we in section 2 still?
Section
Yeah.
2, A, B, and C, we're down at the
I may
bottom,
be
so
off by
returning.
a row or something, and this is a question really for Michelle. Line either 1430 or 1431, we talk about accreditation when awarding service, accreditation of private school and/or college teaching. again, given the times, do we want to add charter school? Or would that limit you if someone's coming from an unaccredited charter school?
From an unaccredited charter school?
Yeah, would we not
They
even
won't
consider
get
them?
any credits if it's unaccredited.
Then we don't have to go into that.
Right. But do we want to add?
Well,
It says
I-
private
charter
school.
The reason I
on
direct,
there.
the reason I directed it to Michelle is it sounds like it's already policy, it doesn't need to be in contract.
Well, it says
Just
accredited
It's-
private school teach, so that would, I mean, that would, a charter school would fall under that.
I don't think so. That having come from a charter school. We're a public school.
Yeah, they're public schools.
So,
So do we need to add charter in there?
let's
Because when
face
this was
it,
done,
my
of course,
single
credit.
interpretation is the state is okay with any Joe or Mary opening up a school. But
But
I
long
heard
as it-
Michelle tell me what I thought was right. When we were, Imagine fought very hard to get our accreditation. I worked on it because it was important to us.
Yes.
It's not the case everywhere, and again, every day I read in the paper. But again, let me be clear, that was my question. It sounds like the district has a policy where we don't accept unaccredited. So it's a moot point.
I don't know that it's a policy, it's a practice.
I don't know the right term.
Yeah, because I can remember when Lori Marshall fought we had a deaf ed teacher who had worked at Pennsylvania School for the Deaf, and we initially did not give her credit for working at that school. Then Lori could find where they are a state charter school.
She was given credit at that time.
Right. So, yeah, we do have that practice, do we?
Is it a bargaining language issue rather than a
It's our
policy?
practice, it's our practice to do the best we can to award as many years as possible to an incoming teacher.
So therefore, it doesn't need to be in here.
Then it would be limited, that was my question. Because if you have somebody you like, but then when we send it through the ranks, it turns out their charter school doesn't, then you can't hire them. But you like them. So, that's why
I
I was
think I can
asking.
hire
You
them.
can hire
I can hire them, but I just can't give them years of.
You got, yeah.
Yeah.
So, You're right.
Okay, so we're okay?
Mhm.
We're going on to section 3.
So, is D and E okay? And put it on the
Still back to
placement,
SLP.
placement.
Say it again, please, ma'am. Say that again, Sean.
The SLP and nurses.
What would you want to put?
New vocational technical teachers, speech pathologists, nurses, they could be added into.
Aren't the nurses vocational
Vocational,
teachers?
yes.
Ultimately, they're vocational teachers, right? If we hire nurses, they're vocational teachers.
Correct, they're on the CT.
For LCEA purposes.
Yeah.
And I guess if we want to add SLPs, then when we figure out SLPs, we can add this in.
As long as if they practice like the last one.
It is.
I don't,
Practice.
Judy didn't feel comfortable with
Okay.
it, but if that's, I mean, I don't,
It's what we do.
okay.
So that was on D. There's placement and salary schedule.
Right. Credit on the placement schedule.
And then E.
That's the amount, so.
Do we need the beginning of the 05 and 06 school year? Or is that like what we've been doing?
I think we just left the years in there, but I think
Huh?
that practice is still there. I just know that the teachers have to provide documentation.
But again, I mean, do we have to have the year in there? Can't you just say social workers shall be given up to 5 years salary credit for?
don't need to know, I mean, we needed to know that it started, we could research it back.
Did we leave the other years then or not? 'Cause I thought we were.
We've taken
And then we
a
left
couple
them
of
out.
them.
And we took them out and then we came back and started looking and we said there may be still some and we
Yeah,
put years back in.
some need to stay in
So
there, I would think.
that's my thing, I just wanted to have the consistency.
I know on C, 2 paragraphs in C and then E, we had taken it out, or that was my understanding.
And back
But-
to C, excuse me, where it talks about hours accrued prior to the 85-86 school year shall be exempt. Are we leaving that statement in too?
The salary for placement purposes.
It's 1439 on mine.
I mean,
But there again,
And again, right before it says the
hours
next
before
step of
85 and
salary.
86, they'd already be at the top of the scale.
Right.
That statement can be struck.
Yeah,
But they wouldn't be for 2.
where it says hours accrued.
Hours accrued.
Yeah, we need to take that all out. Do we agree?
And what do we do about right before in order to advance to the next placement schedule? Next, I mean, we don't do steps,
Right.
so you have to change that language.
Placement schedule.
In order to advance
On
the placement schedule. Done with section 2?
Yeah.
Section 3? Moving right along.
There's a steps mentioned in section 3.
At the end.
Okay, did we leave the years in for E?
Placement.
No.
Credit given on the placement schedule. And then this is where new teachers, very end of that, the second paragraph, new teachers as well as vocational independent will advance one step again, advance.
That can be struck.
Just, you striking the whole sentence?
Well, they can advance annually with other teachers. You don't really need it, but
Don't really need it.
no, just will advance with other teachers.
Are we taking the whole thing out?
That whole sentence at the end of 3. Moving on to 4.
So the last sentence of A, adjustments will be made within 15 days of receipt of total verification of experience. We would really prefer to award experience as it comes in, rather than waiting until we have everything, which would benefit the employee. I think it used to be
Everything.
practice in the past, and it was maybe harder on the payroll department to continually recalculate salaries, but I believe with Skyward, that's gotten easier. So it would benefit us and the employee if we could just award experience as it came in, as it comes in and is
So
verified.
adjustments will be made as documentation is received?
As verification of experience is received.
Okay, as verification of experience is received? Is that what you said? So adjustments will be made within,
No,
no, adjustments
As-
will be
may,
As verification of experience is received.
By human resources. We do, but, so, again, that's practice.
and we know everywhere where it says salary schedule, we're gonna replace that with
Yeah, we're
placement
gonna
schedule.
replace it, yeah.
Still want to leave the verification must be within 1 year of the date of hire.
We're just working in resources.
Yeah. Go to section 4.
Do we want to put in an appeal process there?
Appeal for,
If someone disagrees with the determination of whether it was an applicable work experience, some sort of appeal process or review process.
I just think that's all in HR and policy. I just don't see it in contract, but I see it,
That's one of your procedures and your
Yes.
hires.
that's just me.
I mean, it almost seems like a business legal issue. I mean, we review,
We do.
if someone requests a review or wants to, we're gonna try and give as much as we can, as long as we're not just like, taking our word for it,
We do our best to be very consistent.
Yeah, that's all.
Section 5.
What is all of this? I mean, you're in the, what is
This
this?
is in policy, I believe, isn't it?
Yes, it's in policy.
It's in policy,
Yeah.
so it's something that we can't,
And
and
it's
this is
statute.
policy, it's statute, okay. All of 5 is statute. But it says 1979, 80.
One reason that's favorite.
Huh? Nah, I'm not gonna ask you.
It was probably, you were born in 83.
77.
God, I graduated high school.
I graduated college.
It's my high school year.
Hey, but I got more gray and less hair than just about anybody in this room.
Excuse me.
So if this comes out, it's all great. Trust me. Does not grow proportionally.
All right.
So you're saying all of section 5 is,
As determined by board statute.
well, statute, all right.
So we're not gonna change.
Yeah, I don't change that, we're moving on to 6.
Yes.
I had a question about 7, but it's really just minor. Does the board still have to approve those contracts? You meet, the teacher's gonna work during the summer or additional days. Do those contracts really go up to the board for approval? Or do you guys handle it?
It goes to the board in
Okay.
the form of the
well as-
allocation formula.
That's all it is.
So my guidance counselors and program specialists is all
But
listed.
CTE teachers like have these.
Yeah, we get an
Got
official
it.
letter saying.
Section 8.
Was there, what, section 8, wasn't there a conversation out there about not having it the 15th and the, wasn't it, was there a conversation out there?
15:30 is what they said.
Well,
No,
my
there are
understanding
some
that was
teachers
something
who-
that said
We want every 2 weeks.
2 weeks. And I thought that was out there, but
Line 1523.
There is.
Says a joint committee will be formed to investigate the
All right.
feasibility of
It's still in
bi-weekly
there, I think.
paycheck.
where is it next?
At the end of this
Section 8.
section, section 8.
Right before section 9.
Right at the end.
Y'all have to tell me how that worked out.
I just
Yeah.
remember that there was conversation out there,
There-
instead of saying 15 and 30.
There were
every
some
2 weeks.
teachers who wanted bi-weekly. There still are teachers
Yeah.
who want bi-weekly.
Never
Yes.
say John.
So,
Excuse me, the camera.
That
goes-
was too much trouble though.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think that.
4 or
that-
5 years ago, the compromise was we will put this statement in to review it.
Okay.
Okay, well, we reviewed it.
We reviewed it.
It's not.
It's not gonna happen.
All right, moving right along.
Okay.
So let's
I just-
strike this from the.
But there are teachers to this day who want bi-weekly.
Yeah, I understand.
I just recall those conversations, and that's why I.
And I'm glad you brought that
I
up.
think when
but-
we get to section 15, it'll also recall that that's part of that I'm recalling too, Mom.
Okay, so we're on to, where are we, Charlene?
Section 9.
Okay. Oh, that's a biggie.
Which one?
Because
Yeah.
when we've made, the payroll has made a problem,
Take it back.
they take it all at once.
Oh, yeah.
No.
No.
I'll tell you, we try to, if it's an extreme issue, I've seen where it has been done a little different, but they try to get it back as quick as they can.
That's the Atlanta statement.
They do.
As quickly as they can, all at once. Huh?
Some of the people that put in scan for payroll, and that's why they took it all back.
There's somewhere in there here, and I forget where, about a working out a payment plan.
Well,
If you
it
caught
says.
I think that's
caught it
practice.
first.
I think they
Yeah,
can-
that's
By
in
mutual
contract.
consent, an
Yes.
alternate arrangement is
That's it.
negotiated.
Right.
Yeah, you really.
But employees should be notified ahead of time.
Yeah.
Well, we need to have that language in there, don't you think?
I need to know the
Yeah,
contract.
and I agree that they should be notified prior to this paycheck coming out that, you know what, your check is only gonna be $25.
Yeah.
Because I hate when they come out and tell us that, and I'm going, I ain't got that.
Yeah, there is a section about mutual agreement payment plan. And I've had to implement that a couple times where they've tried taking it all out at once. And
But
it's
that's why
like,
we're
no, no,
saying
no.
to put it in, you know, to notify the employee first.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that, where are you, reading that, Michelle? What number is that, 15?
I've got 1527.
And the overpayments, underpayments, which are made to teachers.
But, so do we start that section with the finance department where we'll notify the teacher of any,
I think we just need to say the teacher needs to be notified notified.
Right.
Because it could be human resources or it could be the payroll department.
As like an extra sentence at the end, you mean, or somewhere
If we're
else?
going to put in that a notification is
By
being
first.
made, it just needs to say a notification, the teacher will be notified, not who's.
So in front
In
of any
advance.
overpayment, start with teachers will be notified if. Would that work?
Teachers will be notified if any overpayments or underpayments.
Are good.
Teachers will be notified in advance of any overpayments or underpayments, which are made to a teacher by the school system.
I mean, if it's already been done, you can't
Right.
notify them in
Right.
advance. They just need to be
Actually,
notified.
Teachers will be
Prior
notified
to,
If any overpayments or underpayments are.
prior to the paycheck. Prior
State
to.
right word which.
Yeah.
Right. So
And
you
then
have our
from the
teachers will be
adjustment
notified
of the overpayment.
of any,
prior to any adjustments.
any overpayments and underpayments made to a teacher. Okay.
Well, that's what we put in there.
I thought we eliminated the letters, it just said to the appendix.
Well, they can be notified, but it doesn't
So you
mean,
can-
according to this, doesn't mean that.
But if you're
Because
noticing
the
the
numbers
numbers
in,
in,
No,
like
it's-
teacher
yeah,
additional
check
pay,
it.
you can see if there's any.
But
Just
are
say
we gonna,
appendix D, it should just say appendix.
yeah, and then are we still using the word stipend, or do we wanna put the supplement, whatever?
That's why we put in the teachers that should be notified.
Will be paid the approved district rate, compensate, well, I don't know, but just leave out the stipend, I mean. we don't-
Some it would be hourly, some would be stipend, some would be,
Just to take out the word stipend.
Yeah. You
Approved
can put district rate of pay.
Will be paid, the district, will be paid the approved district rate.
Yes.
Just take out stipend. And take out the, everything else is, okay?
Okay, does all this current insurance option language have to be in here?
Or updated.
Or updated, right, do we have Plan 317 and Plan 1357?
I think that, that's exactly what I was thinking, some of that needs to be updated as far as plan language.
So we'll just get the, risk management with things and information on the health insurance
Yeah,
portion of it.
and I'd like to highlight section C.
And in the same vein, section F. That has to do with the timing, which is
Well,
really directly.
C and F,
Yeah.
both have to do with timing.
and that is absolutely a goal for the benefit of everyone involved.
It's not a goal, it's required.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I might suggest, and it may not be, this, if that is the required goal, a lot of this section may be just whittled down, because basically it comes to what has been agreed to by the Joint Insurance Advisory Committee at a certain point in time, each time it meets.
No,
Sorry.
that's advisory. They're not a negotiating committee.
That's
They're
right.
strictly advisory.
That's right.
So it has to be negotiated.
Got it. So that advisory committee
Gives a recommendation.
Gives
give a
a
recommendation and then
And see,
approved
that's
by the
been
bargaining.
problem
Right.
is risk management thought the advisory committee was Didn't you get, and
Yes.
figured as long as they agreed, we can do it.
And for the record, I just did
No.
too, yeah, to
Yes.
be fair. Question,
Yes, you're right.
then does that mean, I've always thought of it, it's just by the nature of it, the bargaining committee has been, bargaining the contracts. But in theory, there's a responsibility for it to be a year-round
There should be,
situation.
yeah.
Okay, that's something,
And
as far as
many
a
districts
paradigm
do.
shift?
Many districts do year-round.
Okay. Because there's some advanced thinking, additional thinking, we need to have that even on our side, remember?
And the administrative advisory committee does meet quite often.
Oh, yeah, but we
Yeah.
need to do the contract
I'm
and,
on the committee.
In the last,
Not that often.
year, we've met
Yeah.
pretty frequently.
Yeah,
In
we're
the last year, my
pretty frequently.
experience since I've
In
been
the
here,
last year we did, before then, no, but last year we met quite a bit.
I think the content,
But it starts like in January, February, it doesn't start until.
yeah, I think it's gotta be ongoing, right?
Yeah, you're
Stuff
right.
in a lot it's gotta be ongoing, and people need to be aware of what our claims are as we realize them. Because that's gonna be the key. We got insurance issues, I don't think that's any secret, everybody does.
Everybody
but,
does. It's very confusing.
It's gonna be an interesting year, and if we're not all on the same page, then it's not gonna be fun for anyone, so, yeah, or at least palatable, so. Well, that being said, we'll probably be heading into some insurance meetings before too long as we get the year started.
Okay, so section 11, we decide to let
So
that,
we'll tune it up,
Yeah.
if anything be trimmed, we'll trim, anything, we'll get it.
is that section 12 too?
We'll make sure that's still job through 12.
Pretty standard.
On letter G on 11, does that include, it says that when a school administrator requests teachers to participate. Well, what about if I'm volunteering because somebody else has not made it to the thing, so I, get a call from my AD or
School board
somebody to
employee.
cover it.
School
Does
board
it,
employee.
because it doesn't say that
They
really.
requested a volunteer. You have been requested.
And you're a school board employee, so you should be.
But it wasn't a school administrator that would have.
Board designee, you could put.
You're covered.
Yeah. However, and I just want to
However,
bring
I've
up,
had situations where they've argued that when teachers were on a volleyball team competing against students during the school day.
Well, that's a given. I mean, that's through risk management. They are not covered on workers' comp. But they volunteer. Would that require them?
I don't know. It was during the school day.
In schools, yep, we have them all the time. Volleyball and basketball.
But if it's during the school day,
But
you're at
there's-
work time.
There's,
So it's workers' comp.
no, it's not. It's not covered because on that particular activity, there is a form that is filled out from risk management in reference to that. They're not covered for workers' comp during that time.
So they signed a form stating that they.
There's
know they're
something
not-
out there that,
Well, this was a case where the form wasn't signed. And it was an
because
activity during the work day.
it was volunteered, even when we advertise it as volunteers when they go out and play basketball and volleyball. That's why, especially in basketball, you sit back and you just play a zone defense, you don't try to play man to man, you don't do any of that stuff.
But they were on their work time, so they were compensated. And it was argued that it wasn't workers' comp.
It's not a workers' comp, I can promise you that.
I don't
I
know.
think on the claims for workman's comp, and we can get clarification,
Yes,
but once you get into
absolutely.
claims for workman's comp, then it heads into a whole different
A whole
arena.
new legal issue.
Yeah, it's a legal arena. So I can
I've
get
been-
feedback
I've
on
been
the
knocked-
topic. Yeah. Cool.
If they play,
See if you're playing a basketball game.
But
Like students.
that would be,
get out there.
if it was an after school or evening event, yes, that would, and it was strictly volunteer. But if it was a game that was to be played during the day, they're still on work time.
But there's some understanding, there's some language out there, I'm telling you,
Well-
from risk management that's out there for that they are aware of when they do this, is at their own risk.
Well, that's kind of like the parent waiver on field trips. You're hoping that they'll sign it and not hold the school accountable, but legally that doesn't really mean anything. So, by
Which mean
having,
that's, so when they go on a field trip, the parent won't sign the field trip?
well, they do,
He's saying even if they do, he's probably seen circumstances
Yeah.
where it didn't hold up once you got sued.
once they got sued, you didn't hold up.
Well, or a settlement occurs, you know how that is.
Exactly.
So,
But we do ask if they're on that they have to have insurance or school insurance, so they know when they're going out there. I mean, I know that we bought plenty of school insurance for kids that didn't have it, so they can be covered, so they can participate.
But I think going back to Liz's point, you know, if you're doing, you're a sponsor for drama club, and you get injured,
That's
that
workers'
should be
comp.
workers' comp.
It is.
Well, not in all cases.
Because even if you have a lay coach, in high school, you have a whole bunch of them. Because we can't get folks to coach. Even I had a lay coach, softball coach get hurt, got hit in the head. I mean, he was covered.
So what if you're doing a voluntary program at your school, after school, to help, you know, Spanish children that are having problems? And you're doing that, you know, so many days a week, and someone is injured during that process, but we're not being compensated, we're not being anything, it's just something we're doing on our own.
Yeah, I think we
I've
need to
always
get-
filed a workers' comp. I've always had them to come in and see if it's what it is to do workers' comp, because it
Well, I
happened
think
on my,
that's where we need to
on
get
the
some
property.
legal clarification.
I mean,
To
we have
protect our
teachers that
teachers.
tutor,
Because
but they're not
if you're
asked
on-
to
if you're
by
not on the
administration.
clock,
But it's still
but they're still on,
site.
on Lake County School property providing services to our students. To me,
That's
and that's just me,
how we need
that will be covered under workers'
But,
comp.
but again,
They're
that's
providing
not
services to my
necessarily
kids.
what's occurring worldwide. Yeah,
So could you just, instead of when a school administrator requests, could you just say when teachers participate in school-sponsored activities, they shall be covered by workman's compensation unless a
waiver is
form, a
signed.
waiver has been signed, da-da-da-da?
But the other part to that is that at some point we need to know. Because there could be somebody out there that said that they were doing this. We had no idea that they were doing it. And when did it happen? And so I will say that administration still needs to be, a phone call or something, and you making that change needs to be notified. We need to know, because at
yeah,
that
but we
point,
need
I
to
will
get this
say,
clarified.
you
Yeah.
need to, because I need a leave form for you at that point.
Because like it wouldn't necessarily be a leave form, like if I'm talking about someone tutoring. Like, I'm thinking my calculus teacher, he tutors every Tuesday and Thursday. He's not asked to do so. He does so because he wants to. So based on this, because he wasn't asked to by administration, if he were to get hurt, then technically,
You see, I know
But he
as
has
something, so.
he has administration knowledge.
that
So,
he's-
so
Right.
could we sit there and say like with, you know, administration
Administration knows
should be
you're there.
knowledgeable, you
They
know,
know,
but
they
not
know-
necessarily
They know that you're
request.
there, and especially you've got a grant from the Educational Foundation for some supplies or whatever. They know you're there, but they're not there because they're gone.
we'll get a clarification
Okay.
on
We need
from
to get
Laura,
clarified.
what's
Yeah.
covered and
Yeah.
what's not.
Okay.
No problem.
Yeah, because that's a gray area that's, we need to ensure teachers are
And it's a
covered.
gray area that I worry about, you know,
Exactly.
if teachers come up and then
Because
they work
we
in their
have-
classrooms and all that. I'm not requesting them to do that. They want to do that, and I understand. But I don't like for them to be there when nobody else is there in case they
But I
get
tell
hurt, and
you,
then
we have been burned.
we have
Where-
never.
Yeah, where, you know, they're up there, they're by themselves, nobody knows, nobody gave them, and then the next thing they said they were hurt. We have no idea when, how the situation
Well, there
happened. And
was
we
a
did have a
situation they used
situation
to
where it
4 or
happened on
5
the
years
weekend
ago.
at their house, that they came to school and said it happened on our property. So, you know, there are things.
So,
But
yeah, we
anyway,
need to
we'll
clarify.
get
We'll get
it
it
to
checked
risk
out.
management.
So, section 1.
Okay.
Section 12 we talked about, open.
Section
Check
12,
on
we'll just
that,
make sure it's
kinda
all
make sure.
straight through them.
Okay, 13.
13 is pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
The first line says the superintendent or his designee. I would suggest their designee.
Or designate.
Just
Or designate, that's
Take
fine
his
for me.
off.
Take out the designee.
Fourteen's got a statute.
Sure, how many do we still do? Anything?
Oh, okay.
Only free mercy. Not for anything standard.
Employees that come in and non-employees that are hired, unless there's some.
Effective in 2006, 7,
They, if it's a paper check, they have to go and pick it up. So it's very rare to put in paper checks. There were some holdouts.
Yeah.
I remember back when they had all loans.
We had 2, and then when we did the research, one could do it, but one in the cafeteria could.
In your predecessor, Chad, was one of the holdouts.
What's your,
Yeah. Yeah, she was.
So where are we on 15? Everything's good on 15?
are we crossing out 2006, 7?
Yeah, I don't think we need
I don't think we
in
need
that section, I don't think we need it. Employees will receive compensation
Yep.
for directed loss. That is then for 15,
16 as it always was.
16.
Excellent teaching.
I got to 17, and my first question is, what's that?
Is that national board?
It
What is-
went along with the national board stuff and it went along with the ETC program that we had at the
Now you see it, now you don't.
learning resources.
Yeah, really.
There you go.
So is it gone
Learning
completely?
It's gone.
It's gone.
Okay, that makes it easier. Okay, I'm done.
It's like teacher, teacher and all that.
Yeah. Yes, it's gone.
17, girl, no, okay. We can start.
We have to sign off on it.
What, then sign up on 17?
No,
Oh,
Haven't we?
no.
we got 15 minutes, I don't know if we're gonna do
I
it.
don't,
I mean, we've talked about it.
yeah.
Should be-
Yes, we did.
No, we talked about that smoothly.
We darn sure talked about it.
Well, we've talked about part of it, because we talked about, of course, the definitions there.
Yeah.
Section 2, regular sick days, you know, section 3, I mean, we can't change,
Mhm.
Gotcha.
you know, 4, you know, maternity, the personal reasons. I mean, basically, all this was kept in here. The only thing that we had done is added and had brought in the one language about the, what do I want to call it? Did you name it? Oh, we just said extra leave for the religious holidays and then the bereavement leave. Which is another one that I gave out way back when, under the leave. When we did the PTO time, I know we talked about the PTO, that we could do that, but on the back of it actually had the two other sections, which was, you just titled it extra leave. And then
Yeah, in Neola, in our Neola, we're gonna have a bereavement leave policy, so then if we can hold on that, if that's what we're hinging on, looking at, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, we need to set dates, I know, and that's
Okay.
probably gonna take a few
But
minutes.
you said this, they're looking to do a policy to do this now? Is that what?
Bereavement,
Bereavement. Neola has a bereavement policy. So we need to make sure that's in line with.
So that way we have something that at least coming in, we're
Okay.
not doing something contrary
Okay.
or.
So what's the date?
I'd like to propose that if we could find a date that we could commit a lot of time to on that date with the goal of the end of that maybe being good news, of wrapping things up. So if we're looking at our calendars, we can get a lot of homework done in between now and then. I do need to pull differentiated pay subcommittee together. So I'm going to try and pull that ASAP as soon as I can get everybody on the same date.
As close as you can, yeah. Thank you.
Chad, if I have been in a meeting with the program specialist from Orange County who has said, no, their therapists are compensated X amount more than teachers.
Okay.
So, and I'm not saying that one hand doesn't know what the other hand's doing.
Okay.
That, so if I get that information from them,
Yes.
you were specifically looking at Orange County.
Well, I'm trying to look at different examples. So yes, if you find something that's different than that, then please.
And I'm still trying to run down Sumter County.
Yeah, anything you guys collect on that at any time, please send it to me.
Okay.
I know it's getting crazy.
yes, sir.
So for the people that are out of the school, let me hear what you guys thought.
And I thought,
How much time do you need in between to get your homework done?
In the list, pre-planning is the professional development, the county's professional development day, a full day on one of those days.
yes.
What day is that? The 8th. So I would propose the 8th as an all-day option.
That's what I was gonna
Oh,
suggest.
that's awesome.
That
I
No,
love
I'm being
that.
serious. That isn't even my Amy Cockcroft line. That has to do, because she's now a super, that has to do with the fact that it's a good day. We don't need the professional development being offered. And that's a full
Thank you
day.
very much, I'm offering it. If you know how to do Medicaid billing, you can skip the meeting.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
There are some.
That was a great try, though.
Well, wait a minute.
You can, and if I am the only
I agree
person
with
in
that.
here
I was
that is
gonna
here,
suggest the same thing.
Yeah.
I would not be here either.
Huh?
Liz and I would not be here either,
You can't be there.
unless you did in the afternoon.
So it would be, so what is it?
What about Tuesday the 7th?
August 8th?
August 7th.
What you doing that Monday?
Monday,
On the 6th,
Because Monday,
Don't have it but I can.
according to the schedule on the south end. On the south end, let me preface this, south end, we have our big chamber practices.
But
And
then
that's
after
pretty
that-
much after that,
Yeah.
I normally just.
They try to get us out of there by 9.
So you want to say 10 o'clock on that Monday?
I'm just throwing it out there, I'm not,
So what is that date, August the?
August the 6th.
I can't do it.
I can't.
okay.
My
All right,
principal
all
might
right.
say they have something, so I
Okay,
can't.
all right, so, August 9th,
9th is good.
I don't know what all was going
The
on.
9th I would feel great about, because that would give me the ample time.
I can do until it's like 11. I mean, not that it matters, but I can do the morning.
I mean, I think what I have planned, I think I've got legal stuff training going on.
I mean, we don't want it all day, because, I mean, teachers have to do some pre-planning
Yeah,
things. So what are you looking at, like a 1 to 4, 12 to 4?
Afternoon.
I mean,
About.
I think most of the time the meetings would be in the morning, I would think, for most principals, but.
Most of them aren't gonna have a meeting that afternoon.
And
Because
that's,
we're meeting the first day. and
meet the
then-
teacher.
Meet the teacher.
Is that afternoon, yeah.
But open
I gotta
houses.
meet a teacher.
Yeah, you gotta.
Ah.
I can do
I
the
gotta
morning
meet 2
though.
teachers.
Different schools.
That's the,
Talking about August 9th.
that's on the 9th.
I can do the morning of the night. Anybody else can do the morning of the night?
Yeah.
Friday,
Well, morning
Friday
of
the
9th.
10th.
the afternoon, after 11, I'm good.
On
On
Friday.
10.
What do we have that Friday?
Could we go in the morning of the 9th?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say
Yeah, let's do the morning.
Let's do that.
That would be better.
Okay.
we can finish it.
I'm gonna do it 8.
I cannot, but that's okay.
You can? Oh,
So,
No, I'm the only person that's not, so just do it.
Yeah,
Okay.
we do the morning.
I'd rather do the morning.
Okay.
9 o'clock or 8 o'clock?
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock.
Let's do 8 o'clock.
8 to
I
noon.
would love to do
Yes.
And we're here.
August the 8th, is that day?
That's a Thursday.
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 You can meet at LCEA if you want.
That kind of, that's up to the folks. I feel like we're at the school. I'll let you guys decide that. 'Cause,
It's here, but it's better for me, I just know. 'cause-
It is better for me because I'm
Okay.
closer.
okay, let's meet here.
I don't mind trying to.
That's right, you're all-
So 8 to 11.
Well, it doesn't matter either way.
Yeah, we still gotta go.
Because we're not gonna go to school first, so.
It looks like we do it at Easter. If we do.
Yeah. That's true.
You get mileage.
Lord.
Here's my,
No.
They give us
I got too many bargaining people in
I mean, I can get my own.
here. Okay, are we good then?
Good
Guys, thank you all for all the great work today.
Good work.
Right there.
We're good.
Good stuff.
I